friends. 3 days away from the 12th U.S. Spiritist Symposium. What a dream. It is a dream because it's also going to happen in the capital of the United States of America, Washington, D.C. I confess, it's a majestic city. It's beautiful, has so much history, and so much potential also for true spirituality. And here we come. It's actually the first time that we have a national meeting in the English language in Washington, D.C. Believe it or not, it's the first time ever. We've had meetings there before, Spiritist meetings, but nothing of the nature like a collective national effort to come to the meeting. The meeting, the 12th U.S. Spiritist Symposium, is organized by the United States Spiritist Federation and is sponsored by several Spiritist organizations throughout the United States. Isn't that beautiful? It's also unique. There's nothing equal in the Spiritist movement worldwide. Nothing. And I don't say this out of pride, but I say this to you out of knowledge of the history of Spiritism in this country that has become unique in many ways, and also the format. But we have a beautiful gathering of people from different nationalities, American born and naturalized Americans and Brazilians and Colombians and many other friends from around the world, Germans joining us, and not only as attendees, but also as volunteers in so many different functions. And today we rejoice because we have here with us a friend and a very active spiritist in the United States, Peter Hayes. He is here with us. He's affiliated mostly with the Loving Light Spiritist Center in New Jersey, but he participates in the Spiritist movement in the U.S. as a whole. And I rejoice saying that he's here with us and is going to tell us much more. Thank you, Peter, for being with us. How are you?
I'm fine, Vanessa. Thank you for having me.
It's wonderful to have you. And for those who don't know, Peter Hayes is married to Betty Rosen, who is also author of many books, children books and youth books, right, Peter? You want to tell a little bit
That's right.
about your partnership with Betty in that regard?
Well, Betty and I have a small company called Same Fronteras Press, Books Without Borders, and we collaborate on most of the children's books, which often touch on themes of spirituality one way or another. We will be exhibiting our books at the symposium, which we've done in the past. And we often appear at schools, and we've done presentations about our books in many places around the country. And also we visited schools in Brazil, we visited schools in Colombia, because our books are published not only in English, but also in Spanish, in Colombia, and also in Brazil. We now have 3 titles that have been published in Portuguese.
Oh, wow. That's beautiful. And I know many of the books, and I would recommend for educational purposes as well, and even for plays. That's an old dream that we have to rescue at some point, Peter,
Okay,
right?
alrighty. Yes, absolutely.
But you've been a spiritist and you participated in previous symposia as well. Would you like to share a little bit about your experience, overall in previous
Okay.
symposia?
Well, I was a speaker at the symposium in Connecticut, so that was, I believe, 3 years ago. And very invigorating experience, requires a lot of preparation. And and I was also at the symposium in Atlanta. And last year I was at the symposium in Florida, in Orlando, and then also in San Diego 2 years ago. And the symposium gatherings are always a great opportunity to meet fellow spiritists who are in other parts of the country, of course. And there's really nothing quite like being in the same room with people, because a lot of times when you go to events like this, you just don't really know who you're going to meet, who you're going to encounter, what you may hear, something indirectly that just resonates with you. And so it's true that the real work in Spiritism is at our own centers, in the study groups where we can discuss what we're reading and often debate topics, because certainly one of the tenets of Spiritism is question everything. So one has to take that to heart. Why is this? Why is that? I don't understand this, and so forth. And what these symposiums, they may be an introduction of Spiritism for some people, and for those who are already familiar with Spiritism, it's a chance to reconnect or maybe to get some new ideas. So it's similar to other industries in that respect. I mean, I've got a long background in theater, and I've been to organizations and gatherings of people in the theater from around the country. And so, as I mentioned, there's really nothing quite like being in the same room with people and meeting people and just all that interaction.
Mm-hmm. And Peter, you've witnessed throughout the years, because you've been involved with the Spiritist movement in the U.S. for quite some time, you and Patty.
Yeah.
And would you say you're seeing an evident increase and empowerment of the genuine movement in the English-speaking language?
I would say absolutely. The symposiums now, the level of it is much more sophisticated than it was just a few years ago. I think the participation is probably higher, would be my guess. Certainly the number of books and materials available in English has gone way up in the last few years. And centers are increasing. So and Kardec Radio, for instance, of course, is now 24/7. So it's there's a lot more awareness, I think, that's developing, but it's still in many ways a movement in its infancy, and it's going to take a while because, it raises all kinds of questions about why and how do people connect with Spiritism in the first place, and that's a process that's very individual.
Yes, you're right. There's a lot of room for growth, we would say.
Yes.
Right?
So,
and that's the beauty of it all. There's a lot of work ahead of us.
Right.
And that's the beauty. We can be all the more useful. Right, Peter?
Right. That's true.
Right? And I know you talked about points that may bring people in. And one of the points certainly is family, a topic that you'll be addressing at the meeting. In the program, it says that there is a talk you're going to be giving titled Family School of Redemption.
Right.
I know we cannot disclose the whole thing, but just a flavor of it for those who are watching us.
Well, I start at 9:15, and in the half hour that I have, I'm going to take a stab at addressing certain questions like, how does reincarnation play a role in families? Why are we in the family that we're in? Is there a purpose behind that? And I want to try and tie a particular experience of reincarnation into some general points about reincarnation as a whole as it pertains to family. So I'll do, for people maybe who are not so familiar with Spiritism's understanding of reincarnation, I'll address that a little bit as well. It's such a big subject. I mean, there's just, one could spend the whole day easily talking about this subject in a variety of ways. And so to kind of boil it down into a half hour was a little tricky, but it's, I hope that people find it engaging.
Yes, Peter, and you have a beautiful family. You're a family man,
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, our son's now in college, so it's not the same as it was, but
especially nowadays in the world, right? It becomes. Do you feel like families need all the more helping hands to really be stable and to fulfill their mission in this reincarnation?
Yes, because for parents in particular, often they're not handed a manual on how to be a parent. And so it's important for people who are either wanting to become parents or have become parents to use the resources, and there are lots of them out there, all the resources available to try and educate themselves, because the ability to be compassionate and loving towards a child may be very instinctive, but then what about how to set boundaries with kids and how to inspire them or encourage them? And perhaps one of the trickiest things with parenting is you have to be very present in a child's life in the beginning, more hands-on, but then you have to know how to pull back as children develop and become more independent. And that's a tricky balance to really get right. And I would say probably a lot of people struggle with that one in particular. And this generation is very different from, say, our generation. We just grew up in a different world. And so one has to kind of navigate those differences. And I think probably parents certainly are guiding their children, but at the same time, they have to also understand that their children are who they are in spite of their parents on a certain level. And so they need to know where the boundaries are between when children really need guidance and when children can be allowed to take some risks and even make some mistakes.
Yeah, exactly. It is tonight at the Spiritist Society of Virginia. We were studying with Claudia Nunes about empowering the youth.
Mm-hmm.
And he made us recall chapter 14, item 9 of the Gospel according to Spiritism,
Mm-hmm.
when St. Augustine talks about the main mission of parents being connect their children to God. So,
Mm-hmm.
and everything else is just flowers, because
Right.
the main mission is to connect their children to God. So
It's
I,
interesting you say that, because that's exactly what I'm going to be commenting on. So I'll reveal that part about what my presentation is, because I'm quoting from Augustine as well.
yeah, oh,
Yeah.
adorable, adorable.
Yeah.
But as you're
Mm-hmm.
saying,
Mm-hmm.
somewhat, I just opened the message from the book Living Spring by
Mm-hmm.
Emmanuel.
Right.
And in chapter 152,
Mm-hmm.
he quotes from the Bible, and the title is Come,
Mm-hmm.
and let him who hears say, Come. Whoever is thirsty, let him come. And he comments, I'm not going to read it all, just a
Mm-hmm.
little bit.
Okay.
Earth is the great school of souls where students of all ages are educated. If you have reached the level of great experiences, do not worry about your ever increasing workload. Do not see enemies in those whose understanding is still imperfect. Many of them have not yet left spiritual kindergarten. Always render good for evil, truth for lie, and love for indifference. And then he goes on, and
Mm-hmm.
almost at the end, he says, remember that only Jesus is wise and strong enough to bring you peace of mind. Listen to his divine appeal, spoken in the last words of his testament of love. Come. The Master is the eternal friend who breaks out chains and opens the doors of renewal.
Mm-hmm.
Do you suffer? Are you fatigued? Do you stumble under the burdens of the world? Come.
Mm-hmm.
Jesus is holding out his arms to you.
Mm-hmm.
Come and meet him yet today. It is true that you have always yearned to serve, that the Master has always been selfless and merciful towards you. But do not forget that the circumstances may change with the times, and that not all days are the same.
Mm-hmm.
What
Wow.
about this, Peter?
Oh my goodness. Oh, um, a lot of times people feel they're trapped wherever they are and whatever their thoughts are at the moment. And Spiritism really emphasizes to us that we're all here not only to learn, but we are where we are at the moment, and it doesn't mean we're going to stay stuck there. And that if we keep trying to find ways to have more insight, to learn from our mistakes, to learn to forgive others and forgive ourselves, then we can begin to try and break through some of those chains. And the teachings of Jesus are so universal that they offer a lot of empowerment that people can really try to implement into their lives. It's so, maybe it's easy to say, okay, we should love one another, we need to practice forgiveness, and we can understand what that means, but it's another thing to really make that a part of who we are. And that is where the struggle can be. Sometimes it really is hard to forgive someone, and yet we need to be able to do so, because if we can forgive, it's so liberating. And again, it's just one example of a chain that can be broken.
Yes, wow, beautifully said. For those who are watching us, Peter, and maybe still conflicted or in doubt, hesitating, should I stay or should I go to the symposium? What would you
Oh,
say?
okay. I would say if you can go, it's only one day, and it may be a day that will make a big difference in your life. So you can,
Wow.
it's better to be in person, but it could do come. But it'll be good for you. But no, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. It's, of course, it's very invigorating to be there in person, but if one watches it online, that's better than not participating at all.
Yes. So just to give us all more and more feelings of unity, and this is
Mm-hmm.
a fraternal unity. It's sometimes people think of unity as like a dogmatic, like an enforcement. No, no, no. This
No,
is
no,
about
no.
the love society,
Yeah,
right?
Spiritism doesn't force people to do anything. It doesn't make anything forbidden. And yes, there have certain opinions about what's a good idea and what's not such a good idea. But we do have free will, and people have to arrive at their ability to advance in however way they can. And so there's no one size fits all. But being dogmatic and being pushy is certainly not what Spiritism is supposed to be about. So um, I think I speak for many, but I'll speak for myself here and say that I think trying to somehow proselytize or convince people that Spiritism is the greatest thing on earth is really the wrong approach. I mean, people have to find that in their own way. And as I mentioned before, that's one of the reasons why the study groups, I think, at centers are very invigorating, because if people have questions, are troubled by something, and often that's why people come to centers for the first time, is because they are troubled, then maybe and hopefully they will find answers to some of their questions, because often when we think there's not an answer to what's plaguing us, if we keep studying long enough, we will find it within Spiritism.
Exactly. Thank you so
Mm,
much for
okay.
that enlightenment. And now we would like to invite everyone to join us, Peter, in this prayerful moment. And prayer can serve many purposes, but since we are praying collectively, we
Mm-hmm.
would like to dedicate this prayer to the continuing harmonization, praying for serenity, and for the therapeutic work that is already happening as we are approaching the day of the symposium. Would you kindly lead us into this prayer, please?
Sure.
Thank you.
Let us close our eyes. Dear God, dear Jesus, and our beloved mentors, We are thankful for your guidance. We are thankful for all the healing that you do in all the areas of our lives, in all of the places that we go to. We put our trust in your unconditional love and your ability to help guide us to an area where we can empower ourselves, where we feel inspired to foster peace within ourselves and among others. We are thankful to God and to Jesus and to our beloved mentors for all the healing that they provide everywhere. Please help all of us to keep our hearts open, to kindle the light within each and one of us so that we can direct the light outward. Thank you, dear God, for all that you provide. Amen.
What a joy, Peter. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for having me.
Thank you. We look forward to seeing you and Betty there in
Okay.
only less than 3 days, Peter.
I
Can
know, I know.
right?
We are going to be there real soon.
Yes. So thank you very much. Have a safe trip,
Thank you.
and we see you probably Friday, the day before.
Yeah, we'll
Right?
be there the day before for sure.
Wonderful.
We'll be there
Thank
by
you so
tomorrow.
much. A big hug to Betty too.
Thank you. Big hug to you as well.
Thank you. So, dear friends, what a joy. Less than 3 days away. We're counting the days. In 2 more days, we're going to open the gates of joy in DC. I am already moved by it because it's a dream that is coming true. I cannot believe it either. Imagine the spiritual realm. So let us join forces and keep our prayers and our best works because there is only good coming with it. It's God's work on the earth, friends. And until tomorrow for another countdown, a day for the 12th US Spiritist Symposium. Thank you so much, and until tomorrow.